Well, hello everyone. This is Joe Drums coming to you. Hope everybody's doing great. I'm doing awesome. I've been having really a lot of fun doing these Beatles tributes. I've been enjoying, obviously, playing on the Ringo set. That's really fun. I had quite a few subscribers since then, so again, thank you everybody out there for subscribing to me. I'm going to try to give you guys the best, and gals, the best kind of drum videos on the internet. So anyway, today actually is part 3 now, week 3 of the Beatles. Can't believe it's gone by so fast. But like I said, I've been having a lot of fun making these videos. I've got some more cool items here to show you today. And I said I was going to be talking about the white mono masters. These are the British releases, but they're the mono versions. And they came out with these. These are probably the most expensive out of the 2 box sets of them. You know, the black ones are the stereo. But the mono releases were released because that's originally the way they came out in the early days when albums were on, vinyl. They used to release them in mono. And, it kind of was different because you could pan left or right and actually hear different tracks of, individual tracks of the Beatles. You might hear in one side, vocals and bass guitar. And on the other, you might hear John Lennon singing where he's playing an acoustic guitar. And you'll hear drums in one. So you can really analyze and pick out things a lot easier than if you were having the stereo releases. But anyway, I bought this definitely for that reason, was to hear those, back in the old days like they used to. And the other thing was cool was that they released these with the original album covers as well. So I'll pull these out and show you what they look like. First of all, I think every box set has a booklet of different things and different pictures. You've got that's a real cool one. And again, I think it's like a 20 or 30 page book, maybe 50 page book. Doesn't say how many pages there are. But anyway, there's the early Beatles. But let's go through the albums. Again, you know what these are, but these are the mono releases. So I'll show you the fronts and backs of them. So here's the Beatles, Please Please Me album. And there's the back. And then With the Beatles. And the back. Then they came out with Hard Day's Night. And there's the back. And this was Beatles for Sale. And usually the British releases always had more songs on their records than the American releases did. So that was something that once I got the British releases on CD, I was like, wow, this is way better, than the American releases, because I don't know why they did that, but that's what they did at the time. So there's the back. Oh, and by the way, that was Rubber Soul. I'm not going through them right. There's Revolver, definitely one of my favorite albums here. If you guys have a question about like what's your favorite Beatle album, this was probably definitely one of my favorites. Obviously, everybody's favorite was Sgt. Pepper's. There's the back. Magical Mystery Tour actually had a double, it's a double album. It opens up and includes a 24-page full-color picture book. I was reading the front of that. And then they came out with the White Album, and that was the last one. That was the last one that was in mono. And then I think after that was the Abbey Road, which was, in stereo. Then they released this one too. It's called the Mono Masters, and kind of zoom in here. You can see the tracks on it. You can freeze frame that if you want. But anyway, that's the white box set, the British releases. I got this for Christmas one year, and I was really glad to have both sets because it's just neat to have them in mono and stereo. This was the most expensive of the 2, I think, because it was the most in-demand one. Because everybody had the stereo releases by then. Because before they released the box set, they had individual ones. And the next video on week 4, I'll show you all my individual Beatles CDs that I have too. And that was all they had at the time. There was no box set. So I still have all those as well. So I'll show you those in the next video. Then the other thing that's cool about I think it was their mid 90s or maybe early 90s. I forget what year this came out. Oh, it looks like mid 90s, so it was about 96. They came out with these three different, what they call the Anthology. And what they did was they released, I remember seeing it on TV, they had a whole week of Beatles, and they would go through all the whole life story of the Beatles. And that was a real cool thing, and then they finally released it on DVD. Well, actually, they released it on VHS, and then they released it on DVD. And I still have the VHS somewhere downstairs, but anyway, that's the first one. Quite a few songs, and again, people are wondering, well, what's this anthology thing about? Well, when they released the film, the actual songs that they played during the documentary were all like unreleased stuff that was not on any album, because it was different takes of things, different live things that were never on any albums. So it's really a treasure to have these things. Here's part 2 of Anthology. And then the Beatles actually released 2 singles. One was, what was it called? Free as a Bird, with Jeff Lynne. Jeff Lynne was the guitar player and vocalist and songwriter of ELO. He was the producer on those 2 tracks. And the Beatles actually got back together without, obviously, John Lennon. But they got back together and they re-recorded those songs. And it's really neat to have these. If any of you guys are big Beatles fans and collectors, if you don't have these, it's really cool to have these. I think every Beatle collector should have these. And then here's Anthology 3. And it goes in order. The 1, 2, and 3 actually goes from the early days, and then the mid-Beatles area around 65, 66, 67. And then this is around 68, 69, 70 era. That's the last set. And then these were the DVDs. I'll show you these and pull them out for you. There was 5 of them. They have a special features one, and then the documentary, goes disc 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8. So I'll show you these. Again, it's kind of like the CDs, just the front covers, So anyway, that's what those are. I'll put these back in the box. And I got a really cool book that I've found I found actually at Borders. We had a Borders store that was around here in the mall where I teach drum lessons, and I used to go in there quite a bit and read books on the Beatles and stuff. And I saw this one. I'd never seen it before, but it's basically all the Beatle gear. And man, I'm all about Beatle gear. I love discussing that. What kind of cymbals, hardware, guitars, basses, microphones, amplifiers, you name it. Everything's in here. I've got some places that are marked. I'll kind of show you some interesting things. What's cool about this book is they actually show the real guitar that John Lennon played, like this one right here in '56. That's the actual acoustic guitar that he owned. It's not a replica to take a picture of it. It's the actual guitar, which is cool. I think that really adds to the value of this book when you see them like that, because it could be just a copy, but these are the actual instruments that the Beatles did use. And I don't know how they got these, but this is George Harrison's first electric guitar, and I think it cost like £10. I don't know what £10 was back then compared to American dollars today, but if any of you guys know, let me know. Here's the first. This is the Hofner guitar that John Lennon's friend Stuart Sutcliffe won at a art exhibit, and he started playing bass, or trying to play bass, for the Beatles, but he really wasn't a bass player. But anyway, they show that. That's the actual bass, so that's kind of cool. You get to see the shape of it and the pickups and everything. And here's Paul McCartney's Hofner, 63 Hofner. And here's Ringo's Beatle kit. Kind of weird not seeing the Beatle logo on there. I think they cut it out for certain reasons, probably Here's another shot of a different 65 version of Ringo's Ludwig kit. And here's another kit too that I thought was really cool. This is the one that was on the rooftop back when they did Get Back. That's the actual drum set, as you can see. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at the 2 drum videos that I picked out for this week. And one is Paperback Writer and the other is Help. And I picked those 2 because they're somewhere in between the early Beatles and the later Beatles. So, and I thought these were some really cool rock patterns to do and rock songs to do for this particular week, because they had quite a bit to say as far as the patterns. They're really rock solid. Ringo just laid these down in the pocket really well. The one Help actually is a little trickier for beginners because the tempo is set at 188 beats per minute. So it's really hard to do the hi-hat pattern that Ringo does. Basically what Ringo's doing is a shuffle pattern, which is basically 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4 at 188. And you'll see how tricky that is. So again, for you beginners, take your time, be patient, and the speed will come. But for you guys that have been playing for a while, seasoned like me, you shouldn't have too much of a problem with this song. So again, I hope you enjoy both of these. We'll see you next week with the last video of the Beatles tribute, and we'll talk to you guys again real soon. Until then, this is Joe Drums. Take care. Keep rocking.